Welcome back to another iDoctor UK video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the front screen on the Samsung A34 5G. We can't power down this phone because we can't see anything on the screen, but what we do need to do is heat up this back cover to soften the adhesive so that we can remove it safely without damaging it. I'll use a heat gun to do this. However, a heat plate, hot air gun or hairdryer will do the job just fine. I'm going to take a single-sided razor blade and create a very small gap just in the edge between the mid-frame bezel and the back cover. And then in that gap that we just created, I'll add a few drops of isopropyl alcohol just to soften the adhesive further. Then use a plastic guitar pick, insert it just a couple of millimeters into the gap. We're going to start running it around the edges to cut through the adhesive. Continue working your way around all four edges of the phone to separate that adhesive. Now that the back cover is separated, we're going to take a crosshead screwdriver. We're going to begin removing the 8 crosshead screws that hold down this cover for the top motherboard. I always find with Samsungs that the screws are non-magnetic and they never seem to stick to my screwdriver. So I'll go back with some tweezers and pull out all the screws that we just unscrewed. You'll notice that there's a small arrow just here. Use your tweezers to pry up in that top right corner, and that should separate this small shield from the phone. Now we've got access to the motherboard, I'm going to use a plastic prying tool to disconnect the battery first to isolate power from the device, and then we're going to disconnect this sub to main flex cable as well. And then because I can't find my SIM ejecting tool, I'm just going to pop the pin from the inside so that I can remove the SIM tray. I always like to leave these coaxial cables attached because they can be a bit of a nightmare to put back in. So all that's left to do is remove this single black screw just by the cameras, and then that means that we can pry up and remove the motherboard from this device. There is also this front camera that needs to be detached before we can lift out the logic board. Just detach that and keep it safe for later, and then using some tweezers or your prying tool, gently pry up on this bottom corner of the motherboard to release it from the chassis. Like I said, keep those coaxial cables attached and just lay it down to one side there. Then using the crosshead screwdriver again, remove the 7 screws holding down the loudspeaker and subboard plastic cover. Again, only one of them actually stuck to my screwdriver, so I'll go with the tweezers to pull those out and keep them safe for reinstallation later. To remove this plastic cover, I'm going to pry up from this part here, and that one literally just pinged off and flew straight into my face. There's another 2 black crosshead screws holding down this subboard. Remove those 2. Then use the plastic prying tool to disconnect the screen. This flex cable here is actually stuck to the subboard, so get your tweezers underneath to separate it from the board. Use the tweezers to release the fingerprint sensor too. carefully lift out our subboard. We'll also remove the vibration motor. The easiest way to remove these batteries is by applying some isopropyl alcohol around all four edges of the battery and then allowing that to soak in for about 5 minutes before attempting to remove it. The newer Samsung A series seem to have this pull tab on them where we peel up on this blue film, allowing us to pull the battery from the chassis fairly simply. We're now done with this chassis and we can discard that, although parts like the speakers, buttons and lower speaker are salvageable, and we usually put them into a box for recycling. As always, we'll be using a genuine Samsung service pack for the A34, and I'll try and remember to put a link in the description below on where to buy this. And the easiest way to reinstall everything is to follow the steps that I've just took to take it apart, but just in reverse. So starting off, resecuring the battery into place, reinstall the vibration motor and make sure that's secured properly. Then we can reinstall the subboard. Just make sure that we don't crush the flex for the screen there and that it sits down nice and flat. There's those two crosshead screws that go in. Make sure that they're the black ones will go in place. Now we'll realign the fingerprint sensor. You can see there's a bit of adhesive that's just hanging loose there, but we'll push that back into place, make sure that it sticks. And then finally, for this bottom part, before we cover it back up, we're going to line up this flex for the screen and re-secure it. For these coaxial cables, the red one I believe goes on the bottom, and I took that away like that. The white one on top of that. It's always the thicker one that goes on the top because it sort of holds the bottom one in. Now we can go for that loudspeaker cover and re-secure the 7 screws into place. Just while you're doing this, just make sure that it sits flat and there's no like plastic clips sticking out, because it'll mean that the back cover won't sit on properly ever again. Once those 7 screws are installed, we can move back up to the top of the phone and realign the logic board into the chassis. I'll re-tuck away these 2 coaxial cables, remembering that the red one goes on the bottom and the white one on top. Followed by that single black crosshead screw next to the cameras up here. Then the front camera goes back into place and re-secure the FPC connector. Reconnect the sub to main flex. And then the last cable to connect is the battery. This would be a good point to test that the device switches on and the screen functions normally. However, for the purpose of the video, I'll continue reassembly with the black plastic cover that sits on top of the motherboard. Resecure the 8 crosshead screws, again making sure that the plastic cover sits down perfectly so we don't hinder the installation of the back cover. Remember, if you like repair content just like this, please subscribe, and if you're having a go at doing this repair yourself, let me know how you get on in the comments below. The adhesive on this is just about spent, although I could probably resurrect it with primer. I want to show you a better way to re-secure these back covers, even if you don't have the original adhesive, which wasn't available to us when we ordered the part in. I use strips of Tesser tape, and it'll be a mixture of 5 and 10mm tape. And I lay it onto the device, push into the edges, so that we can see where the angles are, and then use the single-sided razor blade to cut it out to shape. I'll do the top edge now, securing that down. You can use a spudger to push it in the edges, and then again with the razor blade to cut it out. Obviously be careful not to cut into the bezel of this, because they are made of plastic and the stainless steel blade would cut through that if you use enough force. Finally, there's the two long edges to do, and I always just cut it too long and then cut it to size with the blade. Before securing the back cover down, make sure that all the old adhesive is removed, and the easiest way to do that is to use the plastic spudger so that you can get a bit of a start on there, and then this stuff usually peels away quite easily. Any remaining bits of adhesive that are left behind can be removed with some isopropyl alcohol and microfiber cleaning cloth. Meaning now we can just simply peel back the Tesser tape on the chassis, apply pressure to the edges to make sure that it's stuck down securely, and then finally reinsert the SIM tray. That just about completes the repair of this Samsung A34. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.